Alright everyone, WeaponCollector here. Right, I thought I'd do a video on my homemade knives and swords collection that I've made recently. Right, so this is the majority of my homemade knives. I have made some throwing knives, but they're not really fancy and not really worth showing here. These are the sort of better ones I've done. Some are modded knives, some are sort of 100% homemade, if that makes sense, from things that weren't originally knives in that. So this was the second short sword I made from a weed whacker. It's got an aluminium pommel, leather wrapped handle, but it's under brown tape, brass guard, wooden scabbard, and the blade for this is made from a weed slasher. It's a really good cutter, that is. There's a video of that on my channel featuring me making it and cutting with it. This is the short sword that Richard Weaponsmith made me, or as he's called now, Richard Bowman. So he made me the iron blade and I did the handle and the scabbard. I was quite happy with that. It's quite an unusual shaped handle. Fits your hand really well. A really nice little sword this is. Yeah, and then the wooden scabbard. So there's that. This Bowie knife, based on the cold steel, is it 1918 Frontier Bowie? This one's actually bigger than the cold steel one. Made from a marbles machete, so it's not as thick, but you know it'll still do the same job. Nice wooden handle, brass pins, steel guard. Yeah, lovely, really big Bowie this is. And a handmade, homemade sheath with my logo on it that I did. There you go. So yeah, again, there's a build video of that and possibly a cutting video. Let's go to this one here. This is another one that Richard Weaponsmith made me. The original blade blank. Quite a nice little sort of utility knife, but made from iron and in the traditional way. So this was forged, and I thought I'd do something different with the handle and do a bark handle. So it's wood with the bark still on it. It makes quite a nice handle. And this sheath again was homemade, and this is actually made from sofa leather, but it's been made so that it's got some denim in between two pieces to make it stronger. So this one, also quite a few of these knives have got a little story to them. This was made from the end to my samurai sword. I had a wall hanger samurai sword on the wall. You would have seen it just before this. They was illegal if they're wall hangers, if they're over 50 centimetres. So I cut it down, and this was what was left of the blade. So I made this out of it. Not a bad little thing. It's nothing special, but it's pretty good. And then the scabbard, that was actually off of the original scabbard as well. So another Bowie knife. I've had a bit of a phase doing Bowies recently. Very nice veg tan sheath. I think this was possibly the first big leather sheath I made, I think, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I was really happy with that. And overall the knife is very nice as well. This one is made from a marbles Bowie machete. So it was actually already this shape. So you didn't need to do a lot of work to get the paint off. Decently sharp as well. It's got a coffin shaped handle. Not sure what the wood is, but it's a nice bit of hardwood. A nice brass guard as well. But yeah, that really sits nice in your hand, those coffin shaped handles. They sort of lock your hand in, I find. Yeah, really nice that. I was really happy with that one. To be honest, all the Bowies I really liked. So now we'll go to an older knife that was made quite a while ago, but the sheath was made recently. So this is my tactical meat cleaver, which was made in, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but that says WC11, so 2011, so quite a while ago. It's only mild steel, but it would still, you know, the thickness of this thing, it would hit like an axe anyway. And then the sheath was made this year, it says there WC20. I did a bit of experimental patterning on it, a little bit of dust on that. But yeah, overall not too bad, and that's the first time I've done one that colour as well. Another one of the Bowies I made recently. This one I was really happy with. I wanted to do something quite fancy for one of them, so I decided to do brass chape, brass collar, nice black leather. This was made from a blade blank from Henny Haynes. The blade on this is about 10 inches. It's got a solid beech handle, full tang, which most of the knives I make normally are. Or if not full tang, they've got like a big hidden tang there. Nice brass guard, maker's mark there, the WC20, so that's WeaponCollector and then the year. But again, yeah, I'm really happy with this one. A couple of scratches on the blade, but you know, that's just from, I'm not too fussed about that really. These are for my own collection. Yeah, that's a nice big Bowie, and again, probably didn't cost a lot. This whole thing, as with nearly all my builds, this probably cost less than 40 quid, I would say. The blade blank was 20 quid. Yeah, probably maybe 35 quid for the whole lot to make that. And to buy a Bowie knife that looks like that with a proper leather sheath, that's probably going to cost you getting on 100 quid, I would say, personally. At least. So this is my K-bar copy that I did. I've always wanted a K-bar but can't really afford a real one, so I thought I would make my own version. So again, it's got my little logo on it. This was the first time I ever put a fuller on a blade. It's got the leather stacked handle, solid aluminium pommel, which I made myself. And again, with nearly all the knives I've shown you, these have all got a video showing you how to make this if you wanted to. And again, this whole thing probably cost less than 30 quid, definitely less than 40 quid. From a blade blank that it wasn't a K-bar style blade blank either, it didn't look like this. But it doesn't take a lot to shape a blade blank to what you want it. It's got a mild steel guard as well. Yeah, there's that. And again, I'm really happy with that. And that one that's a proper veg tan sheath as well. And as I say, some of the sheaves are sofa leather sheaves, which is hard to make look good, but you can make it look good. This was the first big Bowie I made. This is from a Anglo Arms Bolo machete, and in a way that looks more like a sax, I think, but it's supposed to be a Bowie. All steel construction for this one. So it's got a string wrapped handle, but the handle underneath is steel guard. Yeah, and again, as I say, big blade on this one. This is probably 14 inches long, I think, and thick as well. About 4mm thick, this one. Some of them are made from thin machetes, some of them thicker machetes. But yeah, quite nice that. And as I say, that was the first big Bowie I made. And this was the sheath that came with the original Anglo Arms Bolo machete. I quite like that. It's a big one, and it's yeah, it's very solid. This is what I call my Laredo Bowie, or Laredo Bowie. This was a nice cheap one, less than, you know, probably less than 20 quid this. The sheath is from sofa leather. This is one of the most inexpensive machete blades you can get, and they cost around £7. But if you want a nice Bowie knife and you can't afford to buy the really expensive ones, why not make them? Because you can make a copy of the very expensive ones, very cheaply really. This has got a sort of coffin shaped handle I suppose, but not really. I don't know what you'd call that handle. Bolts to hold it on. That's beech, mild steel guard. Yeah, happy with that. Yeah, and that would, for sort of how nice that is, that probably cost me less, as I said, than 20 quid. Because the leather was free, it was scrap leather. Yeah. So if you want to make a nice Bowie, and the other thing is I like the fact that you can make them yourselves as well. I use very simple tools. I don't use anything more than a drill, an angle grinder, and a little belt sander. That's it. No other power tools than that. This is a dagger. This was the first leather sheath I ever made, proper leather sheath. It's actually been varnished because I was doing an experiment to see what it would come out like, see if it would save me having to buy dye, but I had to buy the dye anyway. This was originally part of a trench knife, this blade, homemade blade from a Dunlop tire lever, and this was the handle to a straight baton. Both of those things were banned, so I took them apart and made something that was legal basically. People quite often say it looks a bit like a Spetsnaz ballistic knife. It's got the looks of that, I think, definitely. And the sheath's alright. The sheath, had I done it, dyed it, would have been slightly better. But the varnish doesn't look too bad. It was more of an experiment of anything. Right, next one is my survival knife. And again, as I said, every single one of these knives will have their own individual video if you want to search for it. In fact, if you look in the description to this, I'll have some timestamps and some links to the exact one. So if you want to see exactly how to make this, where to get the parts and all that, it's there. So yeah, this is my own designed survival knife. So it's got a pouch that you can put anything in. At the minute it's just got a Zippo lighter and a little multi-tool. You've got the ferro rod holder on the back there, leg ties, and then the actual blade is again from a, I think it was £12 or less blade blank. You've got a brass guard, solid wooden scales. You have a pry bar section at the bottom here, ferro rod striker there. The guard comes off and becomes a signal mirror, and these handles come off using this little screwdriver tool. Just stick it on, undo the scales, and underneath those scales is a small survival kit. That was completely designed by myself. Yeah, so if you want to see a video on how to make that, and yeah, proper leather sheath. Yeah, quite like that. So next is another one of the very cheap big Bowies you can make. So again, this whole one was probably less than 20 quid again, from a very cheap £7 machete, brass guard, wooden handle. And what I like to do, I like to just go online. You could do the same thing. Go online, have a look at some Bowie knives or any kind of knives you want, and then make your own. And you don't need a lot of tools, as I say. Yeah, if you watch my videos, you'll see you can make something like this with very basic tools. And you can do them to your own design. You know, sometimes I like to do the big ones. Sometimes I like to do sort of normal ones, normal size ones. This has just got the original sheath that came with the machete. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. It was a design I wanted, so I made it. This is another one of the knives that have sort of got a story, because it had to be made from something else. As in, this was part of a knife that was made illegal when they changed the laws, so I had to make it into something else. So this was originally part of a trench knife, and those were banned. And what it was originally, this was the top of a Pakistani sabre. So I just thought, let's turn it into a nice little dagger. That's why if you look, it's got an ever so slight bend to it. It's not perfectly straight, because obviously this was ever so slightly curved. But it's got a brass guard similar to a samurai sword, I suppose, or a tanto. Leather stacked handle with different bits of kydex between it. Brass pommel on the end there. Again, very happy with that for what it is. Cost barely nothing, 15 quid probably. The sheath is made from sofa leather again. And to get the most, if you ever have thin sofa leather that's like 1mm thick, I recommend getting a piece of the leather, gluing with wood glue some denim, and then putting another piece of the leather on top, and you get a nice sort of 2.5mm leather that is good enough to make sheaths with. I wouldn't recommend making these to sell, but if you want a sheath for yourself and you're very restricted with materials, you can make them with that. Right, so this is the first Machete Bowie that I ever made. We call most of these ones that are made out of machetes Machete Bowies, because that is what it is. It's a Bowie made out of a machete. I can't remember when I made this, but this was quite a while ago. Kydex sheath. This was before I'd ever done any leather work, so I stuck with Kydex for this one. Actually, I've just realised this is going to say when I made it. So this was a little test just to see if mustard patina could do lettering, and it did. So there you go. 2018 was when this one was made. And yeah, this was the very first one I ever made. Full tang, as you can see. Possibly oak handle, I think that is. Not straight, small handle, but very comfortable. About a 10-inch blade, I think, by the looks of it. Quite basic, but good, and does the job. Yeah, I'm very happy with that. As you can tell, I'm happy with most of them. But yeah, it's nice to be able to have these knives yourself. This one was made from a Scorpion sort of display knife that I was given by Tetsubo 57 absolutely years ago. Getting on 10 years ago or more. This is the sofa leather, but this is how the sofa leather originally looks. So it was actually blue. But again, for what that is, I think that's an alright little sheath, really. So this is the knife, and it looked nothing like this originally. But it is now quite a decent little practical blade that you could use. It was all black before and had like a scorpion's tail handle. Looked nothing like that. I designed the handle and the guards. Yeah, quite a good little thing for what it is. And I'll tell you what, I am happy with that sheath though, for what that sheath is made out of. It's pretty good. This is a popular one on my channel. This is just a small Bowie knife, leather sheath, made by myself, done this year. Just a nice little 8-inch Bowie with a traditional brass guard and HDPE chopping board handles. And if you put a bit of work into these, you can get these coming out really nice, these handles. Yeah, what I'm planning on doing is making a really, really big version of this, basically. When you see this, I'm going to make a Bowie knife with the same blade as that, but with this kind of handle. Yeah, I think the HDPE scales actually look really nice for how cheap they are. Virtually cost nothing, and you can have a really nice white handle that looks like a very nice bleak bit of bone sort of thing. This is my Machete Cutlass. So this one, again from a reasonably cheap machete, probably cost 12 quid. Aluminium guard, D-guard, and a string wrapped handle, and underneath that it's virtually full tang with some wood under there. But it's a decent size, getting on for sort of 18 inches I think, something like that, and makes a good fun bottle cutter, and anyone could make it, because as I say before, if you want to get something like this, it's probably going to cost you 100 quid or more, especially with a big wide blade like that. D-guard, big D-guard like that, probably cost you over 100 quid. This probably cost, if you bought everything, 30 quid. And again, I've got a video showing you how to make that if you want. And that's just the original sheath that came with the machete. So this is the first short sword I made from a weed slasher. The weed slashers actually cost £5.89p to buy, which is amazing really. And you can make a sword out of it. So wooden scabbard, brass decoration, leather belt loop, and then the sword itself is fully sharpened on one edge and then sharpened to about here on the back edge. It's got a nice brass guard, solid beech handle that is riveted in place, and it's got a little bit on the end so stop it sort of sliding out your hand, but this is quite a nice thin handle and you can get a really good grip on it anyway. These are lovely bottle cutters. If you watch my videos you'll see me cutting bottles with these, and yeah, cuts absolutely lovely. There'll be more of those coming eventually. And again, there's a video showing you how to make that if you want to. And then lastly is my Grosse Messer that I made recently. Yeah, and you see that blade, what I'm talking about now? I want to make a Bowie knife that size, but with an actual traditional Bowie handle, because this one's got a traditional Messer, Grosse Messer handle. So underneath this wrap, it's actually 2 slabs of metal on each side of a full tang, which is what makes a Messer a Messer. It's got the sort of T-shaped guard, so you've got a bit of protection this way, you know. Big handle, so because of the size of this, although the blade isn't that long, it's heavy, because it's good sort of 4mm thick, so if you want to you can get 2 hands on that. And also that sort of shape stops it coming at your hands. Fulled on both sides as well, and again I did that, so I did the full of an angle grinder, shaped the blade. Yeah, and as with all of these blades, they're all made, majority, in one day with very basic tools. I use nothing more than an angle grinder, little belt sander and a drill. That's the only power tools. Sometimes a sander, you know, like an orbital sander type thing. And all the rest is hand tools that anyone can get really. Even the leather working tools, I made those myself. So yeah, that is my homemade knives, mostly of 2020. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out the other videos. So in the description there'll be links to all of these, that especially if they've got tutorials. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you found it helpful and you'll be able to make your own. Because I'll be honest with you, if I can make them, you can make them, because I have very basic tools. Right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. See you later.